Hello again, you wonderful people. Right, this one is going to be an extension to the last video which I just made, which was about sending entities up, ones that find their way to you when you're trying to talk to your guides. Now, one of you had a bit of a to do with one of these last night and just said that the crystal just stops working. Very well done, you did it on your own, good job. Very proud and glad that some of what I'm saying to people is helping you. My mum actually just had the same kind of experience. It just stops working, doesn't want to work. So she's like, "Oh, my crystal's not." I said, "Well, you know what to do." Lo and behold, gone. Problem solved. So it's not that difficult to do. It's very easy. It's just practice. You know, as the very first time something happens, you kind of tend to go in panic mode. We have all been there. Doesn't really matter what it is. Driving lessons, all kinds of things. It doesn't have to be in this kind of area. It's just a natural thing. So the main thing is just to not panic and kind of get on with it. But as you progress, it'll kind of get easier. So if you start getting them, which you will, obviously, protection. If you don't want it at all, protection's well, protection really is a no-brainer for everything. If you do this work, doesn't matter what you do. Tarot cards and whatever, it's got to be done. So after that, you could imagine in your mind a nice garden or a waiting room or something where your guides can put these things in while they wait for you. Now that's a good idea, because even if you don't want to do soul rescue or anything like that, it gives them somewhere to sit so they don't bug you, because these things could have been around for just one of our years, a couple of days. It could be thousands of years, it could be hundreds of thousands of years. You know, there's been entities on the earth for a lot longer than what history would say. So as you can imagine, once they do spot someone that could probably help them, they tend to get a bit impatient. So a nice waiting area is a good idea for these things. So they when they do turn up, you just get the feeling, but it doesn't ruin what you're doing. You don't have to do it straight away. I mean, once you get used to it, you can do it like that anyway. But yeah, a waiting area for them to sit in is a good idea. Just think of a little garden or something like that in your thoughts outside of the barrier of the house would be a good idea. So it gives them somewhere nice to wait. Now, if you're happy with sending these things back, once you get kind of used to it, there is no limit to how many you can do at once or how many you need to do a day. That's just poppycock. That's someone's just thought of, oh, you can only do 2 a day because we use your energy up. You don't use energy doing it, you use will. You know, you will something to go and it goes. Like I said in the previous one, eventually that's where you're kind of going to end up aiming at. So quantity doesn't really matter. You can, once you get used to doing it, if you feel like you want to continue to help them, because helping them helps you, you can either go and ask your guides to go and get them when you want to go and get them, or you can say to them, rescue all the urgent ones that you find I only want to do it once a day, put them in the garden and we'll sort them out in the evening. Or you can do what I've done, which is just say, whenever you want to go and get some, just go and get some and bring them back and we'll deal with them. Then you've given kind of like a boundary to work around, because they're only going to do what you tell them to do, or they should only do what you tell them to do. it's very important you kind of have a mutual relationship. They need you as much as you need them, kind of thing. They're not equipped to do this while in the physical and the physical astral mirror. That's a free will thing for this side. So, yep, help as much as you can, as much as you want to. That way, you're kind of not being overwhelmed, and that you've given them like kind of instructions on how to deal with this kind of these entities that walk in on you, and ones that they find that need help, like children or ones that have been like really in distress and things like that. So really, imagination is the key to everything here. So like when you imagining them going up to the light and things like that, when you'll find a lot of people that have them around them and they don't know what to do. It's a long-winded way to say, imagine light coming down and sending them up and all things like that. Is sometimes if they're not interested in doing anything like this, or they're just people off the street and they don't know what's going on in their house, ask you guys to check them out, or use your own imagination. Like I say, imagination's the key. You'll find that you start using your imagination to do stuff, but then it turns from imagination to what's actually there very quickly, and you won't know a blind bit of difference. This is especially true when you start talking to them, because you'll have imaginary conversations and then they'll say stuff that doesn't really make sense to you. You would never have thought about it. It's something that you would never have imagined, and that's when you know that this stuff's actually happening. So ask you guys to check the people out, see what they find. They will only look for stuff that is in existence, if that makes sense, because you've got sentience, like chips, implants, curses, problems with energy lines, all this kind of thing. But if you don't know that, if you haven't got that knowledge, then they won't come back with that answer. It's very much like a two-way street in that regard. So what you do is someone comes around and says, I've got like a haunting and I'm getting very scared, blah blah blah. Send you guides. That's the safest way to start off, is send you guides, ask what's there. They'll come back sentient or insentient, or like a recorded event in space. And then you can grow. You just think about that, the person, focus on the person, either a name or their picture, and then imagine that entity or group of entities being around them. Focus on that entity and send that entity up, like the way I explained in the previous video, where you kind of focus on them and then will them to go into the light, and imagine that entity around that person being teleported up, like on Star Trek, for example. And that's when the practicing on your guides comes to play, because your will then is versus theirs. That then comes onto your beliefs about what you believe God is and that you're God. So to do this kind of work successfully, it is reliant on you knowing that they don't know what they are, because this is why they're acting this way, but you do. That's not to say that you're better than them, it's just to say that you realise the greater of their and your existence. And sending them up to the light is always better for them than them being here. So that's a good thing to do, to practice on your guide. And I did just mention chips and implants. They are a form of insentient energy. You get various different types and wondrous different insentient energies. Some are extremely clever, probably clever than some people, that they can hide and they can see you come in and they can make a little box for them to hide in. It just depends on their programming. A chip is like a thing in your brain to make you change the way you think. So people with not necessarily multiple personalities, always depressed, always thinking of some way. It changes the way their thoughts, like a love spell, like they've been changed to fall in love with somebody, like against their will, acting a certain way. That's a chip. It's like an insentient energy inside their aura, which is changing the way they think. Those can be cleared in the same way as you would clear an insentient energy, which is just imagine, say their head, like an aura, and then the dark spot where you imagine it to be will probably be where it's at, like I just said about imagination, and just wash it down like you was throwing water on sand, just with energy, just wash it away. Your guides will tell you whether this is something that you've got the ability to do, or they can possibly do it for you. That sometimes that's quite handy because it saves you bothering. An implant is in your body to change the way your body is acting. Say you've come across someone and they've had the misfortune to someone to say to them, "Oh, I wish something would just happen to their leg or their arm, or they really do need like some kind of lesson." Now that would create then an insentient energy because of the vibes that that person's putting out, and it can manifest in all sorts of different ways inside the body. Can cause them aches and pains, cancers, all this kind of stuff, and that you'll get rid of that in the same way as you would a chip. So you'd imagine about it, wash it away, or ask your guides to do it for you. Normally, after having that kind of insentient energy in your aura, you'll need healing to fill the void. Also checking holes inside the aura and outside the aura as well, in case other things can get in, depending on the kind of hole that's been left. And that really does pretty much cover the type of entities that there is, especially with regards to sentient and insentient. That kind of clears up the difference between the two, as in sentience are just made via our creator, and insentience are made via us, normally unwillingly or unknowingly, should I say. Okay, so thank you very much again, and I'll see you on the next video.